The Dark Pictures Anthology, Man of Medan, or Medan, is a control-your-narrative horror game where you're on a boat, and then you take a good hard look at the motherfucking boat. And then it's an absolute meh. This is the second time I've played it. First time I thought it was a gigantic hunk of garbage. But I figured it would be fun for Horror Monk to decompress a little by trying to make everyone an asshole, and then kill them all. But this game even manages to fail at making a complete joke out of it. The characters are still for the most part god-awful, and even when I try to make them assholes, 90% of the time it isn't funny, or makes the slightest difference in the outcome of events. A majority of the possible deaths in this aren't funny or gruesome enough to elicit an excitable response from yours truly. Though the facial animations are still fucking hilarious at times. You know, the classic dead person, jaw wide open, eyes bulging out of their skull shit that's like a staple in these games. It looks so fucking goofy and stupid, and I'm all here for it. What I'm not here for is how this game manages to milk situations that are boring as hell, drawing them out way longer than necessary. I'm all for giving the player the time to explore an area, but basically locking them in a cage of discovery where there's nothing interesting to be discovered or no spookiness that's legitimately spooky. It ends up being like a classic Planet Fitness commercial, and you're the bulked up dude on steroids. You pick things up and you put them down. And then the lunk alarm goes off and finally allows you to progress in the game. But this is something that they fixed in later installments of this series, so I'll cut it some slack. The ship itself is so low on the scare factor, I feel like even people who are the biggest wimps on the planet when it comes to scary movies or games can play the entirety of this game with a blank stare. The mystery behind everything could have had so much more to it, or at least be executed better so it's actually interesting or scary. And the only reason I can't take a steaming hot dump on all this is because I know in later Dark Pictures games, like I said, they fix some of the issues. I know some people don't like the second one, but I feel it does a way better job of making the story more engaging. Maybe that way is pushing it a little bit, but fuck it. And the third one is their best work other than Until Dawn. That's just my opinion, fight me. I still haven't played The Quarry because I refuse to pay full price for games like these, as most of the time it's too tedious with the lack of cutscene skipping for me to go back and change everything 1,000 times, so there's no replayability for me. Usually after my first playthrough, these games get dropped, and I leave the exploring other choices and paths to YouTube videos where I can watch and skip through the shit I've already seen. But anyways, to keep this from dragging on longer than necessary, I'm gonna cover some of the basics, even though I already freaking did, but I made this list afterwards, so fuck it. And then I'm gonna give this game some well-deserved praise in one of its features. Alright, so here we go. The story is boring. The characters are dull from the start, and it stays that way. There's no interesting character development throughout, and while sometimes there's some decent voice acting, it doesn't help. Although when Olsen, the one-eyed pirate with no eye patch, says, "You little fucks," in that scene below the decks after you find the rebreather, it's fucking hilarious. You little fucks. The setting isn't at all scary. The moments when you're walking around don't feel at all tense and anxiety-inducing. There's also little variety in the areas, and given that a big part of the story is hallucinating and seeing shit that isn't there, it's such a huge missed opportunity that we didn't get to see more of the environment completely changing to ramp up the scariness and intrigue, and also the variety. The jump scares aren't scary at fucking all. Anytime I jumped in this game was only due to the music blasting in my ear and not a combination of being scared or the thing jump scaring me actually looking fucking scary. The monsters aren't scary, but the scene with Conrad and the chick, you know, the one that smiles, that's cool. She's hot too. The deaths for the most part aren't cool or exciting, I already said that. Not a single decision ever feels that tense. Almost all of the possible endings of this game, I might even go a step further and say all, aren't the slightest bit climactic or rewarding. Okay, alright, enough shitting on this game. The mistakes made here are the foundation for some far superior later installment. But one thing I can praise this game for so hard and this series is even back in Man of Medan or Medan, and I'm glad I replayed this game just to remind me that even in the first Dark Pictures they got this right, and that's the camera angles and lighting. My God, is it so well done. It had me clamoring for a modern day Resident Evil with the old fixed camera angles and graphics this good. The angles do such a great job of making the game feel more like a movie, highlighting different aspects of the environment with beautiful precision. It's the one thing in these Dark Pictures games I will never stop gushing about, because it is so awesome. You even get a clap out of me. But that's it. If you have the patience to deal with this game's primarily boring story and characters, there is some fun to have from it. as the first time you play will always be a little interesting as you shape the story yourself. It's why these types of games will almost always, probably, most likely, get a playthrough out of me. If you want to play through every video I've ever made, that'd be nice. And what would be even nicer is if you leave a like, comment, and perhaps subscribe, and I just might make some more.